Right, welcome back. Now, at this stage, we've built out a fairly capable UI and UX for Twitter, and really we've built what I'd probably call a minimum viable product. We've built the basic functionality of logging in, adding a new tweet, and then viewing all the tweets that are available. I'm going to take this a little bit further now by adding the ability to go to a profile page, adding the ability to then follow or unfollow somebody, and then we'll be able to filter your list to show you only the tweets of people that you are following. Now, before we get into any of that, the first thing that I'm going to do is create a navigation bar. And by the way, just in between the videos there, I went ahead and added some more tweets just to make this a little bit more of a realistic scenario. So I've went and created this new account called @NotNile, which of course was very clever and speaks of my superior intellect. But yes, just a nice simple name. I've added a little picture of the dog in there. You'll notice as well it's breaking a little bit where this little text here is shown as slightly off of the list. I'll show you how you fix that as well. And by the way, I did that by going on my mobile app. I was able to scan this QR code here. This let me use at least a preview of the Adalo app on my phone, and I was able to create the NotNile account there. So I've still got that available on my phone, whereas I'm logged into my actual @Nile account here on the web browser in front of us. So let's go ahead and start by, we'll do a couple of things here. We'll add in our navigation bar, we'll fix that list, and then we'll start adding the profile page. So if I come in here, I've got one of these options down the bottom that says Nav Bar, or navigation, sorry. I'm going to pick tab bar here, and we drag it over there. And I've got some interesting options there. I can come in and essentially you kind of have to put this on every page, and you've got to pick what you want your active tab to be. So clearly in the home screen, I want home to be the active tab. I can come in here to first tab and say, right, well, when you click that, it should obviously take you home, but of course we're on home, so we're not going to be able to do that. I can come into my second tab here, and I can say, well, this should take you to a search page, and we don't have that yet, but we'll create that in a minute as well. Do that for the third tab, the fourth tab, the fifth tab, so on, so forth. In terms of what we actually want on here, I think for a third tab, we're probably going to do mentions, and I think we can keep that there. I'll create a new page for that, so we'll just do mentions. We'll come to that in a later video, but we'll do mentions. We'll hit @bar to create a new page, and we'll just leave that for now. I think for the fourth tab, we can come in, we've got profile. I'm going to change that to explore, just because that's the one I want there. Type in explore. Have we got a compass maybe? Explore. Oh, there we go. There's the icon I was looking for. That's quite similar to one that Twitter uses. And then for the fifth one, I'll make that profile, just because I believe on the Twitter app itself, oh dear, which I can look for. I believe on the Twitter app itself, that is how it has it laid out. I'll make that profile. Now I'm not going to go ahead and add a link to that just yet. I'll show you why in a second, but I will make a new page here called explore. Again, I'll hit @bar for that, and you'll see that again in a minute. For the third tab, we've done mentions. For the second tab, we'll do search. I'll add a new page here. Watch this. When I go to link and create new screen, I'm actually going to type in search, which is, oh sorry, that's the wrong place I'm typing that. I'm actually going to look for the search page. I was thinking I was on the components browser there, and there's a little thing here called list search. So I'm going to add that. Selected that, I'll call that search, and we'll put that in. So a little bit of a roundabout way of doing it, but essentially we've just created a tab bar with a new mentions page, a new explore page, and a new search page. Now we'll come back to each of them in a minute, but first let's fix that list, and then we'll dive on to the profile page. So I'm going to zoom in here. Now this takes a little bit of playing around with to get exactly right, but essentially what I can just do is give this a little bit more space on the page. I can tell Adalo that it's okay for this list to take up more space, and that way, hopefully with that change alone, it should be enough to take care of all the tweets. We're not quite there, we still need a little bit more space. So the other thing that I can do is I can select the individual box, I can drag that down a little bit, and that will space everything out. But I can then take each element in the box, and I can drag that down. Now you might run into an issue here where elements start to stop replicating, Usually I just move them around a little bit until they work. In very rare cases I might have to delete the list and start again, but that has happened to me only once, and it was on Safari, so don't worry about that too much. So if I hit preview, let's pop back in here, and there we go, things are starting to show up well. You can see the problem essentially is when there's more than one line of text, it's starting to push that up. So you might just want to adjust your boxes slightly to accommodate that user generated text. You can play around with that in various different ways, and of course you can come in and mess about with the styles to try and get somewhere as well. But I don't want to bore you too much with messing around there. Let's go into where we were. So what I want to do is, when a user clicks an item on this list, what I want to happen is for them to be taken to the profile page of the person who tweeted the tweet. Now you could have another page for actually going to a tweet itself and have its own screen for it, but you're not going to learn too much from that. All you would do is hit link, new screen, new tweet, and put it in there. So instead, let's create this profile screen, because there's a few things I can show you on there. So we're going to call this profile. We're going to say we want an Nav Bar there. And look at this little part that pops up. So this says, send this data to the profile screen, current tweet. So essentially what it's saying is, no matter which item I click in that list, whether it's the first one, the last one, the fifth one, etc., whatever the current tweet is of the row of the list I've just clicked, it will send that tweet's information over to the profile page. So I don't need to know in advance which tweet the user is going to click. I know that no matter which one they click, the relevant information will be sent over to this profile page, which is way over here for me to work with. So I'll hit done there, and I can start editing on the profile page. So what do we need on here? Well, probably the first thing that we're going to need is an image. So we're going to have a profile page that kind of has the user's image on it. So we'll edit the styles there. We'll set that round into 25, we'll set the width to 100, and we'll set the height to 100 as well. That gives us a fairly decent size. We'll make the round a little bit bigger, set that to 50. I'm also going to drag a piece of text in here, so that's going to be the user's name. And watch this. So I can delete that, I can hit add magic text, and I immediately have this current tweet. So even though there is not a tweet on this profile, it has intelligently pulled it through from the list on the home screen. So I can just go in, I can go to current tweet, I can find a tweeter, and I can get their full name. So I can pull that through right there and then. I can drag another piece of text in there, and I could make that the handle. So I can put a little @ sign, go to the magic text, current tweet, current tweet, tweeter, find the handle, put that there. I can make that again a little bit grey like we've got on the other screen. I'll maybe leave the text the right size, but I think I'll take the full name, and I think I'll change that up to make that 20, and so we can put that there. We'll also put a little a button in here, and I'm going to make a few changes to this in a minute, but I'll leave it there for now, which just says follow. Change that to an outline button, which I think is the way it looks on Twitter at the minute as well. We'll do that. I'm also going to put a little line in here. So there's an element called line. Now it doesn't really do anything, it's just a visual component like this. And just drag it across there. And you can start to see how my list is starting, how my profile page, is starting to shape up. You can see how this is coming together. We'll connect it all to the data in a wee second. I'm going to drag another bit of text in here. I'm going to write followers. And what I can do here is just put a space in front of that. If I go into add magic text, and this is something worth paying attention to, because it might have been something that confused you slightly when we looked at the database, because I know it's a bit of a weird way to do it. But if I go to current tweet, I go to the tweeter, I can then access their relationship with their followers. So how many, what kind of followers have they got? Now that takes me into this whole submenu where I can start to select other things. But right at the top, I have this option that says count. And that will simply give me back, or as we call it, return a number. So this is just going to come back and say, X number of followers. So I can do that, and let me just shorten that little box right down. So I can do followers, I can copy that, which I've just done with Control C, I can paste that. Again, although it doesn't look like anything's changed on the screen, it's actually pasted right on top of the element. Please bear that in mind, whenever you do a copy and paste or a duplicate in Adalo, you won't see it because it appears right on top of the element you just copied. So you have to go in and drag the top one off of it. Now I can change this one up, take away user count. I'll do following, I'll do a space before that, I'll do the magic text, current tweet, Twitter, and this time instead of followers, I'm going to go to following, I'm going to grab the count, and there you go. So that is going to show how many people, how many followers they have, sorry, and how many people they are following on this specific profile page. Let's go ahead and start plugging the data in. So in database, again, rather than go to logged in user, I'm going to go to current tweet, I'm going to go to Twitter, I'm going to grab a profile photo. We've got the full name, we've got the handle, we've got that, we've got that. The other thing that you can do here is you can go and grab this list. So again, it says list. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it. Looks like nothing's happened, but actually if you notice up the top left, it just changed to list 2, and I can drag this over. I'm going to just drop it in that page while I move my screen. There's probably a better way to do that, but I'm using a crappy trackpad on my laptop, so it's a little bit harder to drag and drop this kind of stuff. And just move this over here. You can move the size down a little bit, restrict that, do it to it there. And I can also take my tab bar from down here. Can copy that. Oops, I've done it again. Just zoom out a little bit. Paste that. Again, look at the top left, it comes up as tab bar 2 because now we've pasted one on top. You can drag that over here, layer that on. Now it might cause some issues with that list, but what I'm expecting to happen is a list to scroll rather than actually show up over this tab bar. But we'll see, could be wrong about that. And then just one or two little changes we've got to make here. The first tab should now link to the home page or a navigation screen. Everything else I think should look okay. Clearly the profile is not really going to link anywhere. We'll come back to that a little bit later on, but Explore, etc. is all done because we've copied that over. So there we go, we've got a tab bar, we've got a list. Now one of the things I'm going to have to do is filter this list, because at the minute on the other page our list is just showing all tweets. But we're looking at a user's profile, so the only tweets we want to see are that user's particular tweets. So if I go into filter, and there's a couple of ways you can do this, by the way. You could do it by adding a custom filter, but I'm going to go into a filter and I can simply go here, current tweet, get the tweeter and get their tweets. Really, really simple, and that will now only show me that person's own tweets. Just straighten that up slightly. One last thing that we're going to do to make this work, and by the way, actually, let's just make sure we're sorting it from the newest to the oldest with the created date there. But one last thing that I'm going to do here, we've got this follow button. And what I want this button to do is, when I hit follow, I want to add an action that says update. And what we're going to do is update the current tweeter. So we're going to update their information. And we're now going to say, once I hit that follow button, the people following them now changes. We're now going to add the logged in user, because I'm logged in, I've hit follow, I am now following them. So we're done. The other thing I need to do, and don't forget this part, is I'm now going to update the logged in user. I'm going to go to a following, and I am going to do add the current tweeter. Now you might have noticed I did just do something wrong. If I pop back to that first one that I made with current user, I don't want to update their following, so let me just switch that back to no change. I actually want to update their followers to add the logged in user. Quick distinction there. So what's going to happen is, if a user hits that follow button, it will now update the person that we're meant to be following to tell them this user's now following you. Simultaneously, we'll update the logged in user to now register this person as somebody who we are following. So that becomes followers, yep, and this one becomes following. Nice and easy. Now, in the previous video, clearly you can follow and unfollow. In the previous video, we looked at how you could use favourite as a toggle to switch on and off. But because I want to use this full button, I want to show you a slightly different way of doing it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this my follow button. Oops. So I'm going to call that my follow button. And I'm going to click the three dots up here, and I'm going to hit change visibility. So we're going to use conditional visibility. Now at the minute this button should always be visible, but I'm going to change that to say it should only sometimes be visible, and it should only be visible if the logged in user, now there's a couple of ways to go about this, but I'm going to say it's only going to be visible if the logged in user following, and we'll hit following and we'll hit all. So if any of the people in the logged in users contains, and then we'll pop in here and we'll say the current tweets, tweeters. Can we just put Twitter? There we go. So what we're saying here is this button will only be visible if the logged in user has the current user in their following list. Now that's not quite correct because we want to actually make that does not contain. So this follow button will only appear if the logged in user's following does not contain the current user. Or sorry, when we say current user, we mean the current tweet that was dragged through, that data that was dragged through to this profile, that current tweet's user. So we'll put that there, nice and easy. And then I'm just going to take that, I'm going to hit Control C, I'm going to paste another one. It's popped up here. So that's now the button that's sitting on top. If I drag that off, you'll see it. There's another one, put it back. It's not quite sitting flush now. Just hit Control Z on that a couple of times. And what I'm going to do is change this up now. So that's going to be called follow to. We'll change that to unfollow. We'll now change the visibility that says it will be visible if the user does contain. I'm going to change the look and feel of the button slightly, so I'm going to call that a contained button. I'm going to change the text to say unfollow. I'm going to take away the icon, because I think that's how it looks on Twitter without going and double checking. And now we're going to change this part here around, because when we say update the user, rather than add the logged in user to the followers, we're now going to remove the logged in user. So we're going to remove them from followers. We'll pop into this one. And again, rather than add the current tweets user, we're going to remove the current tweets user. So it's just doing the complete opposite. I don't know if we could put a little delete symbol in there. I don't think Twitter has that as an X, delete, something like that. Could do unfollow. It takes up a little bit of space, sorry, let's just leave it. So now we've added a follow and an unfollow button. So we've done quite a lot there. Why don't we go hit the preview and see how it looks. There's bound to be some kind of mistake, because there always is when you make that many changes at one time in a no-code app. So we come in here and we've got a list. Let's hit not now. It takes me to the profile, so things are loading. Okay, we've got a little bit of a visual bug, not too bad. We've got all the tweets, okay, they're trailing off the screen slightly. We can fix all that. 0 followers, 0 following. So essentially we've kind of made everything work. If I hit follow, it's going to spin a little bit. The follow button disappears and we now get the unfollow button. Now again, a few little visual errors, the kind of thing you can tweak and change, but look, it pops up with 1 followers. You could add a list in there to show them. We're not going to bother in this video, but you've got follow, you've got unfollow. I can hit that, it'll remove, it'll put it back. So you've got a pretty functional, little piece of work here. Okay, I've got to do a few things like just shorten this in, just to make it all fit. I've probably shortened that too much, but overall, we've kind of built a fairly functioning app. So I'll come in here, double check those changes again. It's still a little bit broken. Need to mess around with it some more. And one thing just to keep in mind, although it might look like it's over on this screen, if you look on a smaller screen, it's going to look, pop in here, it's going to look a little bit different. Similarly, if I go to, for example, a Pro Max, which is the phone that I've been working off of. So let me just refresh the previewer. If I go to a Pro Max, then again, you're going to get a slightly different look. So you've got to play around to get the right look that you're after. And Adalo does have some good documentation on how to get this just right. But worth bearing in mind, sometimes the visuals are going to look slightly different from phone to phone. But, in terms of fixing this stuff, it's just about making it a little bit more space. It's about dragging this stuff down a little bit. It's about moving this stuff over. Clearly one of the issues on this is that list being a little bit too far over. So, you're really just going to end up chopping and changing, moving around, popping in and out the preview, and there you go. Okay, I've pulled it over too far this time, but we're getting to a place where this is starting to work. It's always going to look a little bit different in the editor from how it looks though in the tool, but as you can see, like I'm doing here, just drag it around, just play around with it till you get it right, because eventually you will. Put that there. Let's see how that one looks. And we're not quite on yet, but you can see the bare bones of the look is there. So, in terms of what we've got left, I think one more thing just to mention on this list here. So on our homepage list, what we haven't actually done yet is filter this, because right now this is going to show us tweets from anybody. It's going to show any tweets we've got at all. So what we want to do is hit add another filter, and we want to say that we're going to, oops, let's go down a little bit. We want to say that we're essentially going to filter this to only show tweets where we follow the tweeter. So if I go to select my data, I can say, right, for the current tweet, find a tweeter, find our followers, select all of them, and then simply say, does that contain the logged in user? So it's a little bit like the filter that we did over here, but now, and you're not really going to see the difference because I've just followed the person, but if I pop into my list, I'm not going to see anything because I'm not following the user anymore. And again, if I was to go and follow, let me just do that manually. I can come into the database, I can come into the users, I can edit those records, and I can say, right, we're going to set, which one's which? We're going to set the following, or the followers of not Niall. We can set the followers to, we'll add in Niall at NoCode.Tech, which is my first account. We'll also say we're following that account, just like that. I'm just doing this manually to show you how you can use the test data. And I can also come in here, I can say, right, oops, sorry, I've come into the tweets. I can come into the records, I can scroll along to Niall, try to edit this, yep, scroll down here, I can say, right, I'm following Niall +1, which is the other account, Niall +1. So all I've done there, I've just done the same as what we did in that profile button, except I've done it manually just for a little bit of speed, since I've moved all the tweets. And now you can see they show up, but it doesn't show up my own tweets anymore because I'm not following myself. Now, you could decide what behaviour you want, because if you go on Twitter right now and tweet something, you will see your own tweet in your own timeline. So you could make yourself follow yourself by default, for example. You could come in your setup page, you could add maybe an automatic field that says, by default, the user should follow themselves. Don't think you've got the option on this bit, probably because you're still creating them. But various different ways you could do it. You could add a filter that just allows all tweets and shows your own as well. You could have a different list for your own tweets. You could choose not to show them. All different ways that you can build this out. But now we've got a pretty functioning version of Twitter. We can now make tweets, we can show them in a list, we've got it showing up in a profile. Let's go ahead in the last video and just make sure our mentions, our explore and our search is working as well.